Good. We ready? Let's call to order Town of Basalt Planning and Zoning Commission meeting Tuesday, January 20th, 2026.
All right. Bill Marin,
Yo.
Kyle Oberketter, Eric Vozick, Rob Levitt, Cindy Hirschfield,
Here.
Mike Horvath,
Here.
Bob Kaplan,
Here.
and Ben Firestein. All right, you have a quorum.
Great. All right, first order of business. Public hearing, 72 Sunset Drive, PUD amendment. We need to continue public hearing to February 3rd, 2026. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have first, do we have a second?
Second.
We have first, we have a second. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Okay, public hearing, 555 Basalt Avenue, special review. And this is James.
Is Curtis, has he done it?
Thank you. We do have the applicants here this evening on this application. We've got Justin Fries, and we also have Rika Blodgett from Myers Steel. This is a public hearing on an application submitted by MREH LLC. It's a special review application with PUD amendments, Southside floodplain review and associated land use actions to construct 54 commercial spaces, storage spaces, and 48 multi-family residential units at 555 Basalt Avenue, which is the Myers Steel property. The process includes land use requests requiring review by the Basalt Affordable Community Housing Commission, also known as BLOC, the Planning and Zoning Commission, and Town Council, with public hearings at the Planning and Zoning Commission and Town Council levels. Also requires subsequent subdivision review by the Town Council to condominiumize the commercial storage spaces. Staff has also identified that the requested development would require approval of a master plan amendment to amend the future land use map, as well as the typology designations for the property in the master plan. And as such, master plan amendment is being evaluated concurrently with the land use actions. And the master plan amendment will require review by the Planning and Zoning Commission and Town Council as well. So staff recommends treating this initial meeting as an introduction meeting to the application, as well as an introduction meeting to the discussion items related to the project, and for the P&Z to provide initial comments and identify additional information that might be needed at future meetings in evaluating the application. The site subject to the application, as you can see on the screen, is a 4.84 acre parcel that currently houses Myers and Company. It's located in the Basalt Business Center South PUD, and it's located in the town's urban growth boundary. It's currently zoned industrial PUD, and it's partially in the south side floodplain. Proposal is to remove the existing buildings from the site, construct 54 commercial storage spaces on the south edge or south half of the property, as you can see in these buildings here. And then also to construct 48 multifamily residential units in 3 buildings on the north portion of the site, as you can see here. Access is proposed to the commercial storage units from View Lane on the south side of the site. And then access is proposed to the residential buildings from the existing driveway that goes to Cody Lane. property is located between the Basalt Park and Ride, which is located right here, and the Southside 4 subdivision, which is located on the other side of Feed Lane. Of the 48 residential units, 12 are proposed to be deed restricted as category rental units, averaging a category 2. And the applicants can go into more detail on the proposal as part of their comments. In reviewing the application, staff has identified a series of discussion items that are in your staff memo. They include consistency with the master plan, the level and mix of affordable housing mitigation proposed, the exterior storage requirement waiver for the affordable housing, compatibility of the proposed use, building height, the pedestrian connectivity aspects of the project, FEU lane, access to East Cody Lane, and then traffic and the south side floodplain and green building and wildfire mitigation requirements. So staff has introduced those in your staff memo that you have in your packet, and we'll go through them briefly here to give you an introduction to the discussion items. The first being consistency with the master plan. The site is in close proximity to the Basalt Bus Rapid Transit Stop, or BRT stop, and has an opportunity to provide affordable housing in close proximity to transit to satisfy a series of master plan goals and objectives. However, the property was identified as existing land use on the master plan's future land use map. You can see it in this location. So essentially, it was not envisioned for redevelopment during the life of the master plan when the master plan was adopted in 2020. So a master plan amendment is required to change that designation. Also, the typologies in the master plan identified the property as work mixed use, and the work mixed use typology envisions residential intermixed with commercial. And as noted in the site plan, the applicants have proposed that the residential and commercial uses be fully separated in the project. So there would be a need for an amendment to the typologies as well to accommodate the proposed development. And so, as I noted, the master plan amendments are being evaluated concurrently with the land use actions. Going back to the discussion items, the level of community housing, affordable housing being required is a discussion item. The applicants have proposed for 12.
Could you speak louder? Because I really can't hear anything.
Yeah. Would you guys like to maybe?
I don't think it's going to help.
I'll speak about it. The level of affordable housing being proposed is 12 units of deed restricted housing that are averaging category 2. They're proposed to be all rental units, and all of the deed restricted units are proposed to be 1-bedroom units. You have floor plans in your packet materials, and we've got them here. The project proposes for 25% of the units and 25% of the residential floor area to be deed restricted. And the code requires that 20% of the units and 25% of the square footage be deed restricted. So the Basalt Affordable Community Housing Commission, BAC, is in the process of reviewing the application, and staff will provide an update at the next P&Z meeting regarding the BAC's recommendation on the level of affordable housing as well as the unit mix proposed. With regards to the exterior storage requirement, the applicants have proposed for the deed restricted units to meet the livability requirements in the community housing guidelines, except for the requirement for exterior storage. The applicants have indicated that they can't provide exterior storage because the first floor of the residential buildings must remain open due to the floodplain considerations. So we propose them to be open for the tuck-under parking to allow for floodwaters to go through the site in a flooding event. The Basalt Affordable Community Housing Commission, BAC, is also in the process of reviewing the request for the waiver. Staff will report back on this to the P&Z at the next meeting with regards to the BAC recommendation. Other topics included the compatibility of use. Both the commercial storage use and the accessory residential use are allowed in the industrial zone district. The residential being a special review use in the IN zone district. And so as noted, the master plan typology on the site would need to be amended because the current typology of work mixed use encourages the intermixing of the residential and the commercial uses on the site. And the applicants have separated it with the residential use being on the north side of the site and the commercial use being on the south side of the site. In looking at the storage use, staff believes that it's important that the storage remain bona fide storage because the parking and traffic generation in the traffic report are based on bona fide storage use, which would be lower than if the spaces were used as business spaces. So staff believes that's important consideration. Other topics included the building height that is proposed. The Basalt Business Center South PUD requires a maximum height of 35 feet. The applicants have proposed for 38 feet to the top of the parapet, as you can see in the elevation drawings that we have in your packet, as well as they propose for the elevators to go higher than that 38 feet. This is requested through a PUD amendment, and so the PUD allows for flexibility in terms of height being considered in exchange for justification of the level of public benefit being provided. So as noted, the Basalt Affordable Community Housing Commission block will provide a recommendation on the level of affordable housing mitigation as it relates to the community benefits of the project, and staff can provide that recommendation to P&Z for your next meeting. Other discussion topics included pedestrian connectivity. As I noted, the site is near the Basalt Park and Ride and the BRT. This is the Basalt Park and Ride, and across Cody Lane is the BRT station. It is within a quarter of a mile of the BRT station. It could be a transit-oriented development. However, it requires a strong pedestrian connection to the BRT. So staff has requested that the applicant establish such a pedestrian connection. The applicants did explore the potential to provide a pedestrian connection across the Basalt Park and Ride, but RAFTA was not supportive of providing it across the Park and Ride. So the applicant amended their application to provide a sidewalk adjacent to the access road to Cody Lane so that it would connect to the crosswalk across Cody Lane for pedestrians to get to the BRT station. In addition, other discussion items relate to Fiu Lane, which is on the south side of the project. Fiu Lane is currently a two-way street, but it narrows down with a couple of pinch points on Fiu Lane. The police department provided comments that are in your packet about consideration being given to widening Fiu Lane as part of this project to better accommodate the two-way traffic in conjunction with the development. The applicants have indicated in their application that they propose to maintain the current width and circumstance of Fiu Lane. And so staff has identified it as a discussion item for P&Z and ultimately council. discussion kind of comes down to competing goals that the council will have to decide, which are widening of the road versus eliminating some mature landscaping that is established on the south side of the project. But staff would welcome P&Z's discussion on that topic as well. Other discussion items include the access road from East Cody Lane to the residential portion of the project. It is a sliver of land that is owned by CDOT, and currently the CDOT approvals only allow for 5 vehicle trips per day on this piece of property. The applicant has made a request of CDOT to amend the approvals to permit 48 units of residential, and CDOT's response is expected in January, late January, and so staff can give an update to P&Z at the continued public hearing in February. But this is a necessary action to be able to take access to the project from East Cody Lane. That brings us to the topic of traffic. The applicant has provided a traffic report that is in your packet materials. It indicates that the development will not generate more traffic than the current Myers steel operation, and as such would not have a negative impact on the traffic at the Basalt Avenue and Highway 82 intersection. Staff has had Charlier and Associates do a third-party review of the traffic study, and his comments are in the packet materials. Charlier identified a concern that the current site traffic generation is only based on 1 day of traffic count in May of 2025, and that a broader review of the existing traffic generation is typically necessary to understand the current traffic counts. The applicant's traffic engineer is going to be on Zoom this evening, and he can provide clarification and will address his traffic counts and how his methodology is. And we can have Charlier and Associates attend a future meeting if P&Z desires it to provide discussion on their comments as well. Staff anticipates conditions will be needed for consideration at a future meeting related to requiring contribution to the Basalt Avenue, Cody Lane mini roundabout, and laneage changes that are identified as a short-term solution to build capacity at the intersection. On other developments have contributed to this requirement. Additionally, as noted, it's important that the storage use remain storage and not morph into some other business use because the traffic projections in the traffic report were based on the storage use, which has relatively low traffic generation rates. And so that's an important consideration in potential conditions of approval. Other topics include the south side floodplain. As I noted, the site is partially in the south side floodplain, which goes from south to north back towards the river. The applicant has worked with the town's contract hydrologist, who is Robert Crable of Matrix Design, to come up with a site plan that could be developed without increasing the base flood elevation on the site. And they have done so by having the tuck under parking, and that allows for the flood flows to go through the property in a flooding event. So Matrix Design believes that the site plan that has been proposed would not increase the base flood elevation and would meet the town's requirements for floodplain development. Other topics included green building and wildfire mitigation. They're discussed in your packet. The applicant would be required to meet the sustainable building regulations that are in place at the time of the building permit, as well as the wildfire mitigation ordinance. The wildfire mitigation ordinance will need to be updated here shortly because the state has passed a new wildfire code, and it requires that local jurisdictions jurisdictions adopt the provisions of that state code. So it is anticipated that any conditions that would be reviewed would require that they meet the wildfire mitigation standards at the time of building, and that's being updated. So this evening, as I noted, staff recommends treating this meeting as an introduction meeting to the proposal, as well as the discussion items, and then also considering applicant comments, taking public comments, and providing initial P&Z comments on the application, as well as identifying what additional information the P&Z might need at an additional meeting in the future. Also of note, staff will produce draft conditions of approval for consideration at a future meeting. So with that, let me stop sharing my screen. And let me bring up the applicant's slides here. And as I mentioned, we do have the applicants here this evening. We've got Justin Fries and we've got Marika Blodgett, who is the property owner. And we also have Anthony from Workfork Engineering on the side there. So staff would suggest at this time taking applicant comments.
Alrighty, yeah.
All right. Good evening, everybody. So we've got up on the screen a conceptual rendering of the fully built-out project. James, I'll have you just jump to the next page. So I've included two aerials. One really including the top right has proximity to downtown. We didn't really catch the high school in that one, but the storage to the west and just kind of showing where we are on the site. And the one on the left a little bit more zoomed in. So we've been working with Michelle and James probably for about 18 months now. We've had a lot of back and forth on this site, and the two really tricky parts of this site when we first started were the floodplain and the traffic. We had a south side traffic study, and I think as we looked at this development, anything we looked at was about keeping traffic to what it was currently or reducing it further. That's kind of what resulted in the uses that we looked at that could be available on the site within the given Business Center South zoning. And what could be placed in that area. As James mentioned, it's currently being used as Meyer Steel, so more of a heavy industrial use that has between 60 and 100 employees as this process has gone on. They have daily trips from both deliveries for their steel materials, but also their finished product going out to construction sites. This development would remove that use and have a little bit less intensity as far as construction, trucks, and traffic during the days. Just kind of outlining the site, we've got the residential uses to the south and to the southeast. We've got light commercial uses to the northeast and to the west, and then the RAFTA Basalt parking ride to the north. I'll have you jump to the next slide, please. So this is a little bit more of a stripped down plan. The blue hashed area is the current floodplain. And so it takes up, I'd say, probably about 60% of the site right now. That is the 100-year floodplain event line currently. So in working with this site plan, we went through about 5 or 6 different iterations of how we could lay out the buildings to not affect both upstream and downstream neighbors with the floodplain. Ultimately, we kind of settled on this layout because currently you've got the 3-story mixed-use building just to the west, I believe. It's an architecture firm with residential above it. And we felt that the height allowances and the size of that building kind of fit in nicely with the size of that building. And also having the residential units closest to the park and ride to promote public transportation gave us the best layout for that. The storage use to the south, we felt one would be a little bit shorter in height and it's also less intense in use, so being right up against single-family housing, some of the residential uses to the south gave us kind of a stepping and scale to the south in that direction. And then tried to create a little bit of a north-south arrangement for snow melting and snow plowing, which is how we got to the plan we got to. We also based the number of residential units on the overall traffic counts. We are exceeding the amount of residential units that would need to be created by a commercial development of the storage in nature, which we think is a benefit to the town. And it could be further reduced, but we didn't feel that more storage or more commercial uses would help in the proposed development. It would just lead to more traffic intensity, and so this is kind of what we settled into from a both developer pro forma look, but also from the traffic use look of things. I'll have you jump to the next page. So I'll touch on a couple of the things James mentioned in here, and I'm sure we'll probably get into this discussion more. So Few Lane was a big topic of discussion. Both the current owner of the Myers Steel site and I believe a few neighbors have all expressed concern about the narrowing of the street here. We're dealing with a lot of mature trees in that area. We're also dealing with, I believe it's a daycare to the adjacent property. We've got industrial trucks coming and going. And so what we did is we pushed the access to this site as far up the road as we could there to allow for that. And we looked at probably 3 or 4 different layouts of what would be required to meet the minimum street width requirements for Basalt, what would be required. It would result in essentially losing all of those trees, and then it would push into the applicant's property, probably 12 feet in some areas because it narrows down. We understand the concern for safety there, but I think both the applicant and the neighbors would rather push for a one-way in that area versus a two-way street. They feel the two-way street would just add to traffic. Maybe the high schoolers would divert that way more often, knowing that it was a wider street. And then also some of the concerns raised in the packet and the letters about the drop-off, pickup and drop-off for the daycare as well. So we think by the removal of the fence, the expansion of that lawn, it's going to increase visibility in that area, and the reduction of the real true traffic, the construction traffic, will increase safety in this proposed layout currently. Going to the bottom right or the northeast corner, that is the CDOT access. We have been working back and forth with CDOT on that. Our preferred access was to cut across the RAFTA parking lot because, as you've seen, there's always pathways going across parks of users that cut through. And we tried to kind of make it a little bit more user-friendly. But there was, I think, some concern there of a pedestrian walking through while cars were driving through the parking lot, so RAFTA pushed back. And so we've been talking to CDOT. We believe that our traffic study will warrant the increase in trips. We just had some email exchanges today, so we're getting closer to their response, but haven't seen a lot of pushback on that increase there. And we also think pushing the residential traffic, which is a little bit more heavy use, over to Cody Lane, where you have the RAFTA Park and Ride and some commercial uses, and keeping it away from Few Lane is the better directive for that traffic. I do have a couple pictures on the last slides that we can look at on those. So this is the Few Lane slides that James showed, and we can discuss those. But that is the current fence along the Myers property that would get taken down and pushed back. Essentially, we'd be using the buildings as the perimeter, so no fence would be required there. And there was a. Can we jump back real quick? 2 slides. At the request of the fire department, but also I think both the neighbors and the applicant have seen it. There is a 5-foot soft path that goes behind the backside of those buildings. So it could be used by pedestrians, but it also used by emergency services if there was a fire. It also creates wildfire separation between the building and vegetation. So that really serves a lot of purposes to that side. We can jump to the next one. And then you can see in there some of the trees we'd be looking at. They are some of the tallest, most mature trees in the Business Center South District. We did have an arborist visit the site. He did a tree inventory, and so we have tried to preserve with our landscape architect the ones that we've identified that have at least 50% or more life as a part of this application, and that was included in our submittal documents. And then I'll jump to the last one. So we included this just as discussion for that CDOT connection. This is, again, a tricky little corner. We've got a drainage ditch, we've got a mailbox, we've got some site utilities. And so connecting that sidewalk, we are working with CDOT, with RAFTA, with the drainage company to figure out the best way we can to connect, since we can't go through the RAFTA lot. And I included just in that top right, I don't know if you can see it or if that is, we even looked at going down the, I'll call it the south side of the RAFTA lot, and we've got another transformer there and a lot of vegetation. So we looked at wrapping people back around to Basalt Avenue and then down Cody Lane. But it's just really tight in that area. And so I feel we've made a lot of effort to find the best way to lay this out, to provide that connection, and we're going to continue to work with CDOT to provide that. But that CDOT access is about 28 feet wide. So a 2-lane street and a sidewalk is getting pretty tight in that area. I think I have touched on most of the major elements because we got a lot to discuss, so I'm going to leave it at that. And we've got the representatives for the owner and the engineer as well. We can go from there. I think the last page just has 3 more views, just kind of from each direction to get a better understanding of the landscape and the building height. I will touch real quick on the building height. The allowable height is 35 feet. My understanding was with the zoning code, that is to the top of the roof. We have a 3-foot parapet wall that's extending up past that. So I believe it does meet zoning code height. It's just that the parapet wall extends up. One, to screen any mechanical equipment up on the roof, and then also for banking of snow up on that, so it's not falling off the roof. And the stair tower and elevator towers, I also believe, have the exception to be allowed to exceed height because of the overruns and the fire department requirements to access the roof. So we'll leave it there, and we're open to any of your questions.
Alrighty, I think since we have a lot of people here who I think are expecting to add their comments, we should be really clear about how this is going to go. First, the commissioners are going to ask questions of staff and the applicant. We'll go through and do that, then we'll open up the public comment section so people could make their comments, and then after that, we will go back to the commissioners for commissioner comments. I want to be really clear that no decisions are going to be made tonight. This is just an informational meeting, and everybody's comments are welcome. So with that, who wants to start with questions?
Do you want to mention a time limit for public comment?
Well, when we started, I will, yeah. Rob, do you have any questions?
James, can you verify that the parapet height for mechanical is given the additional 3 feet?
Mechanical can have additional under the regular zoning code. However, the PUD is specific to the building height. So if it were not in a PUD, it would be covered under the regular zoning code, but they need a PUD amendment to allow for the additional 3 feet.
And that's also on our list of things to go through. Okay. It's not a comment as much. The fire lane you showed, where it has the 5-foot wide grassy area, is that where the mature trees are?
Partially, yes. We have worked with the landscape architect to maintain some, but some would be removed.
Do we know why the police department suggested a 2-lane road?
Yeah, it is currently a 2-lane road, but it narrows down. The emergency services and police department have had quite a few discussions about feeder lane over time. They have desired to maintain it as a 2-way road.
But not widen it?
Well, they've actually recommended
Okay.
widening it as in conjunction with this application. But they've requested that it remain 2-way. You know, given that we've received quite a few comments about the potential to adjust it to 1-way, staff can have some discussion with the emergency services between now and a future P&Z meeting to see if there's any thought to that recommendation.
That would be helpful. We received some letters from individuals in the packet. I didn't see anything from HOAs.
And we haven't received anything from the adjacent HOAs. The design review board for the Basalt Center South has approved of the design, which is the requirement in their PUD covenants.
Okay, I know we're early in the process, but when we look at things I'd like to see in future meetings, it would be how Stotts Mills and Southside weighs in on it. I think that's really important.
Okay.
That's all for now, Bill.
All right, thanks. Bob?
Yes. Is there other for sale storage, commercial storage in this town? Do we know? This is a for sale product that you're building as opposed to a for rent self-storage.
Correct.
And is there other in this? Yeah.
No, there's not.
It was good to hear that staff has concerns about the traffic counts because it seems to me that many of the for sale self-storage turns into homes for jobbers and contractors and such, and that is definitely more than one person in and out a day for 24 units or whatever. And so I do have some concerns about the potential for that. I don't know if this can be deed restricted or there's other things that could be done. But basically, you're wanting to sell these as toy holders for people as opposed to a place for a jobber, a contractor to have his business and go in there every morning or 2 or 3 times a day, which is not realistic with these traffic counts. So that is a concern.
One of the discussion items we've had in the back and forth with the town was kind of what we've seen, and there's not a lot of industry data, but I'm working on about 6 of these throughout the Mountain West. And we've seen 60 to 70% are usually personal users that are toys. 30% are usually business users that are looking for extra space that they don't want to pay downtown or prime rent. There are some, we have seen some contractors utilize these in other locales. The applicant did add a note that they would have HOA language stating that it cannot be the primary place of business, therefore not hosting clients and using it as, invite 50 people over. But there would be, there could be the possibility currently with that definition of an electrician or a plumber, having some pipes there and coming and going in that essence.
Well, if that's the case, then the traffic study showing 1 trip a day is not realistic for 24 units. I'm not advocating for or against more traffic on the street. I'm just saying that traffic count is not realistic if you have jobbers in there. 8 of your 24 units.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a concern. It's good that staff has understood that that's a potentiality.
And we do have Curtis Rowe, who represents the applicant's traffic engineering firm on, and he can provide additional comments at the right time.
That's a question and a concern. Bach has not seen this yet, correct?
This Thursday.
Thursday. Okay, so I won't ask about the, I mean, how did it come about that you're all one-bedroom and studio units? Is that just what the space could, or was there some research as to the need in the valley?
Currently, it was a balancing of what we could provide unit-wise and what we could provide parking-wise in that realm. There was discussion about the ability to make these 2- and 3-bedroom units. We did look at that briefly. There is probably some flexibility to be able to convert some of these into 2-bedroom units, just based on the current layout. Really, it was due to initial studies by the applicant and getting some feedback from developers.
Okay. It'll be further discussed with Bach, et cetera. I think the location right next to the rafter station is fabulous. I think that's walk to it can't get much better than how close it is. So in that regard, it's very positive that it's there. Yeah, I do have great concerns about Theo Lane unless it turns into a 1-lane. That seems to be where it might be going. Those are my comments.
All right. Cindy?
Yeah, I have a few questions. So I saw the deed-restricted units will be rentals, but it wasn't clear to me whether the remaining ones will be rentals or for sale.
Currently, my understanding is they would be rental. There was discussion of condo. It's kind of been a back and forth right now. That has not been settled.
So it could be a combination of for sale
Yes.
and rental,
Yep.
or okay.
Correct.
Then I wondered if the housing units can't have storage because they have to be elevated because of the floodplain. How do the storage units, proposed storage units, comply with the floodplain?
I think it was the differentiation in insurance requirements for rental versus ownership. I would have to dig into that. I do not have an answer on that one. There was concern in the developers we talked to that if they were renting those units and had storage down there, that would be a liability. So I can dig into that one further and get
Yeah,
more
I'm just
answer.
curious because it doesn't really make sense
Yep.
that you can't store, but yet we're building all these storage units
Yep.
on the same level.
And I believe what we've done is with the grading plan and with the way the storage lays out, 3 of the 4 buildings are actually out of the floodplain because the grading changes how that floodplain works.
Okay, yeah.
And so we can take further mitigation to that by either doing concrete foundations or extra waterproofing in order to help protect that on the storage unit side. The difficulty is meeting the parking requirements for 1-bedroom and even 2-bedroom. You know, if we went up to 2-bedroom and bigger units, we've got to then, I start losing on that lowest level parking
Right.
spaces
Right.
throughout the site. So
Okay.
it's the balancing act of more units, more parking, more storage.
Right.
And so I think we settled into how do we maximize units versus providing, 5x5 storage closets at that lower level.
When in May was the traffic count done? Was school in session?
My understanding was that it was.
Okay. And so, I'm sorry, early, you said? Early May, okay. And what about construction traffic projections? Is that included at all? And, because that will be quite
The current
impactful.
construction or
Well,
the
no, I
during
mean,
construction?
once this, if this development were to undergo construction, do these traffic projections include how many vehicles would be going in and out of there all day trying to build it?
I don't believe they do include that at that
Okay.
time.
I mean, I think
The town
that's,
requires a construction management plan. right,
Okay.
So that will be discussed later.
but not until after approval, so there's no way to have any input on it?
We could ask them to provide the construction management plan.
Okay.
at-
I mean,
at
I
a
guess
later review.
I'm not so concerned about numbers per se, but I think we should all be aware that that's something to take into consideration in this very tight area. That was it basically, except I'm not clear, you were talking about using Cody Lane instead of Few Lane as eventual access for residents, and I wasn't really clear, because you were saying that one, like, potential egress has a transformer box and vegetation, so where exactly would people go off of Cody Lane?
That was for the pedestrian path.
Oh, for the pedestrian, okay,
Yep,
so
yep.
where would,
So currently, we have it on the west side or the plan north. Yeah. So we're showing the street on the bottom of the page, and then the sidewalk would wrap around on the, right there where James is highlighting it. Because we wanted to keep it on the closest side to the residential, but that's also where the drainage ditch is.
oh, okay, so it was just the pedestrian traffic you're
Correct.
talking about diverting, not vehicle traffic. Okay,
Yep.
got it.
Yep.
Okay. Those are my questions for now.
All right. Mike, do you have any questions?
Essentially, you're having two very different access points for the two different entities.
We wanted to split the uses so that we had residential and storage, and the more storage commercial use.
The pedestrian, James, could you pull up like MapQuest or, I have it here, Cindy, it helps, for me, it helped put together
Yeah.
access.
And there will be a gate between the two. So storage users would come and go from the Few Lane access. Residential users would come and go through the Cody Lane access. The gate would have a Knox box for the fire department to access through. We talked with Brooke Stott at Roaring Fork Fire, and so that discussion has been brought up about how they circulate and navigate through. And we've done fire turning analysis of a fire truck working its way through the
On the
Okay.
access from Cody Lane.
and from Few
All of
Lane.
them.
Yep. So they can drive in one and come out the other.
So just so everybody's clear, this is Cody Lane right here. This is the access point off of Cody Lane, and it goes down the driveway, access to get to the 3 residential buildings that are proposed. And then there would be a gate in this area separating the commercial storage from the residential. And then this is Basalt Avenue as it's going towards the high school. And then Few Lane comes off of that. This is the gas station that's located there. And then, so the applicant is proposing the access to the commercial storage coming off of Few Lane.
The site plan's rotated 90 degrees, so it's confusing.
This is south, or I'm sorry, this is north and this is south.
Page 3, and that would be north-south.
And so Fio Lane narrows after the ingress and egress point to the development,
Does.
not before, after it.
All right, Mike, do you have any questions?
So what's the width of Few Lane between the gas station and their egress?
Let me go back to the site plan here.
It varies. There's a lot of overlap. If you notice, there's the little triangular, that's part of the current property of the
Yeah.
Myers property that jogs up there. So there's currently kind of I don't know if it's a remnant access easement there. And we might have more property lines on the next page. And we might not catch it.
Just looking at this survey, it looks like the pinch point is before it to me. But
The main pinch point is actually down here. There's a tree on the property across Few Lane that was preserved during the development of Southside 4. And there's some photos here that can give you a better idea of what we're looking at.
I guess ultimately my question is, could Few Lane accommodate two-way traffic to the west of Somerset egress without being a two-lane all the way through?
Let's go back to the site plan and you can ask that question again here. So you're asking, can it be two-way here and then transition to one-way here for the rest of the?
Yeah, you have Somerset Lane directly across from their egress point, can that section of Few Lane accommodate two-way traffic per the request of the fire department?
Yes, generally to the access point, the fire district and police are okay with two-way as it sits now. It's really as you move further along View Lane that you do have kind of the pinch point issues.
The fire department wants that part two-way.
They would prefer it to
I live there,
Past.
past that.
which we can answer questions.
The 2 cars can go on that.
Can someone define where is it in here? I think it's in one of the letters, it's the Few Lane Sneak.
Yes.
What is,
That's what this is.
What is that?
So.
And is that, how is it being utilized by high school kids?
The FEU lane sneak is, essentially high school traffic when it's letting out, using that as an alternative to get around, the traffic that's backed up on Southside Drive.
So they come out Somerset or like out Allison?
They come out.
I think they come down Allison and then Few to avoid waiting at the roundabout.
They go into the neighborhood and then come on the,
Okay, that's what I was trying to figure out, that definition of what that is referring to.
Yeah.
No other questions at this time?
Okay. I have some questions. First off, for our next meeting, could staff or somebody provide a simplified drawing of the CDOT drive land? A lot of this confusion is because of how they do engineering site drawings now, where line weights are all kind of the same and line types are all kind of the same. So they don't really delineate what's a property line and what things are. So if we could get a simplified, so we see whose property is what the widths are at Few Lane, because that's kind of a point of contention. And a more clear drawing would help us all talk about it and talk about the same thing. So that would be useful. I think another thing that would be useful for the next meeting would be better architectural renderings. Those are, I'd say, just the more descriptive of the buildings themselves.
Okay.
Because it's kind of hard to tell. They're black and white, and they're very, very rudimentary. And at some point, we're going to have neighbors in here, and they're going to see it, and we're going to, that's one thing I get phone calls about all the time. How could you, this is so ugly. So if we have better things to look at, really help us talk about them. And also, another thing, because this is something we've been talking about, is what are the pedestrian connections? Because they're shown on an engineering drawing, and then they're mixed up with all kinds of other stuff, like water lines and sewer lines and property lines. And so it's hard to see. So at the next level of this, we should have like a landscaper type drawing showing where the pedestrian connectivity is, because we're talking about it a lot. So we really, really need that. And then my last question is, it looks like you've done an assumed property line between the two halves of the property, or are you splitting the property into two actual properties?
So when we laid this site out, we did put an assumed property line between the two. The reasoning behind that is most storage developers I've worked with don't do residential. Most residential developers don't do storage. And so it's been a rare occasion that somebody would want both. And so on a for rental residential development, we wanted the ability to separate the properties off so that they could have separate ownerships.
But it'll be legally two separate pieces of property at the end of this?
Yep, correct.
That was my question.
Yep. And there are two pieces of property currently. We're just reconfiguring the lot line to allow for a residential lot and a commercial storage lot.
Oh, it's currently two separate
Yep.
properties?
There's actually a lot Y and a lot W.
Oh.
But it's a very strange little, on the south side, it's that strange lot that runs along there.
Yeah. To us, the only thing that matters is what it's going to become.
Yep.
All right. That was all of my questions, so let's open this up for public comment. I'd like you all to be mindful of all of our times, and so if you could keep your comments to 3 minutes or less, state your name and where you live, and come up to the podium and speak into the microphone so the lady doesn't yell at us. So if anyone wants to make a public comment, be my guest. We're going to open up public comment at 7 PM on the dot.
We have one online who's raising their hand. 57 Fitz, if you'd like to make public comments to the Planning and Zoning Commission, please go ahead.
Yes, my name is John Fitzpatrick. I'm the president of the Basalt Business Entities Homeowners Association on Queen Lane. And I've spoken with our members, and we really have a problem with a couple of things. The traffic count. I think it is both short of what I think the reality is. This development, the housing part of it has 75 parking spots, if I'm correct, what I read. I think the amount of traffic is going to be tremendous impact on us. On top of that, coming down Cody Lane, it's already a substandard road. And I think that's going to completely impact negatively along the businesses on the road there. The other thing I've constantly had a problem with, and I think we really need to push up another form of egress to the whole south side. The one intersection is just overdriven at this point. I'd love to see if we could get Midland Avenue extended onto South Side Drive. That there's an egress, and people want to just go up to the high school, they go up to the high school, and not have to make the whole rigmarole L circle to come in. Safety wise, traffic wise, I think that would alleviate a lot of problems. This has been something that was kind of so much screwed up when it first got developed over there that should have been in consideration. I've directed to town, but we need to have 2 forms of egress. And that's about basically what I have. I can't believe the traffic count that says 48 houses and 54 storage units is actually going to decrease the amount of drives into it, where it's going to drop at 8 in the afternoon and -2 in the morning. I think that's a very rosy expectation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Vince.
Anyone else wish to make a public comment? Okay, come up to the podium and see some.
Well, if I can stand right closely. I guess 3 things, basically.
State your name, please.
One is the change to the storage units being mixed used is really going to be very disheartening to a lot of people because it's going to increase traffic significantly. The other thing is Faux Lane has a problem now with the kids at school. I think you said it. They use it to bypass the traffic going up to Southside High School. And making it 2-way and wider is going to be a nightmare because they'll just use it that much more. They try to, after school, come down through Southside and get to that before the traffic backs up from the high school. So they're always, mixing around. Whichever way is faster is the way they go. That's been a big problem. I don't see why they don't make it one way in one direction and let emergency vehicles go through it in both directions. They fit. If a fire engine's coming, people are going to wait. There's only one bad point, and it's by that tree that you mentioned.
They do that anyway.
Huh?
They'll do that anyway.
Yeah. So, I think the housing part of this is great, the affordable housing. I really do. But I really am concerned with the change in the storage units. Originally, I said, fine, South Side people, you're going to see the back of the storage units. It's probably better than the fence that's there now. And it's a wider space between that and the roads. But those are the two detriments I think you're going to get a lot of negative comments about. The units themselves were fine if they're storage units, not mini commercial businesses. Very familiar with the other storage units that are there, and nobody is running out of business, running a business out of those storage units on South Side. So those are the big things, I think. Other than that, I don't see any major problem. Just keep your lights down at the ground, not up in the air. Okay?
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Any further comments, anyone? All right, let's close public comments at 7:06, and we will start with commissioner comments. Mike, would you like to start?
Sure. I think the concept of a two-way view lane seems not ideal for the community. I think a one-way should be explored with the police. If that has some larger pull-offs at points, just so to help facilitate the two-way emergency access, something like that. I think that's valuable versus widening that entire street and losing all those mature trees. One of the public comments was that Cody Lane is substandard. So a little more info on that would be helpful. I do question the traffic numbers. I do think that 48 residential units seems to create more traffic than what is presented. And so I didn't dive into the full report, but it's an attachment. Take a look at it next time around. I agree that the housing density is at a great location. If you're able to connect off Cody Lane, especially with pedestrians, I think it makes sense to me. The concept of a PUD amendment for height due to public benefit, I'm just not sure what the public benefit is. It seems like we're meeting standards in unit numbers. And so I'm not sure what that public benefit is above and beyond to allow that height.
Well, underlying code allows it, but the PUD doesn't for
Okay.
mechanical screening. So, they're kind of trying to coordinate the underlying zoning code for height for mechanical screening with what the PUD is saying. So that's kind of what that is.
Okay. Those are my comments.
All right,
So
thanks.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but to just kind of clarify it, I'm working through the traffic stuff with you too, which looks like it's going to be an issue, but if you like the size of the housing that's going to be the main contributor to the traffic, those two don't.
Well, I think the mention in the traffic study, the portion I read said there was no reduction due to public transit. I mean, you're right next to one of the best bus systems in the world. You're walking across 2 parking lots and you're at a BRT stop and a bus is there every 10 minutes. So while I agree that the numbers are incorrect, I think there is some reduction
Okay.
that needs to be studied further.
I agree.
Mike, we do have Curtis Rowe on here, the applicant's traffic engineer. Would you be accepting of a couple comments from him at this point?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that now, to put this to bed.
Curtis?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Curtis Rowe, with the Kinley Martin Associates. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm a professional engineer in the state of Colorado. I'm also a professional traffic operations engineer. I have 32 years of experience. I also am the traffic engineering professor at the Colorado School of Mines. So I do really enjoy talking traffic and answering traffic questions, so I'm happy to be here tonight. So first off, I took notes of everything, so I could go through all of them, but to answer the questions here, most recent, with regards to the trip generation for residential, that's based directly on the ITE trip generation manual. So the Institute of Transportation Engineers collects data of residential apartment units across the country and develops equations for us to use. And so there's no manipulation, there's no adjustment. Those are the real volumes. There's 27 trips, peak hour trips expected based on the 48 units. And that isn't the peak hour. So mind you that there's traffic that's generated in the hour before the peak hour and then the hour after the peak hour. And so this is just the highest hour of the afternoon. And so that is that 27 that's represented. And then also, since we know that traffic is a sensitive issue, we work directly for the town on the south side study as well as the Brody Lane roundabout. So we're very familiar with traffic conditions. We wanted to provide a conservative analysis. And by doing that, we decided to not apply a transit reduction. Will there be residents that use transit? Yes, most definitely. And the ones that do will actually reduce the traffic volume even further. And so although we're showing a decrease in traffic of 8 trips with this redevelopment, it's actually going to be a greater decrease when you consider that a lot of the residents will be attracted to use transit with that being so close by. But again, we wanted to provide a conservative analysis for the town and make sure that we weren't overbuilding or providing too much density with this development. And so that's how we landed in this spot.
All right, Mike,
No follow-up.
okay, good, good. Well, I think the thing is, we're just gonna have to pay attention to this as we move through the project, because it's sensitive to everybody. Cindy, comments?
Yeah, so my overall philosophical comment on this is I haven't had anybody say to me recently in discussions, what we really need in this town is more expensive housing. But a lot of people, and in so much of what you read, not here, but across the West, is we need more housing to accommodate workers and people who don't earn high six-figure salaries. I feel like this location, it's probably our last best chance to provide any kind of meaningful employee housing to people, given that it's right next to the transit, it's within walking distance of town. And I would like to see at least 50% of the units be deed-restricted for worker housing in order for this to be considered. I mean, I can't see approving more and more housing without some kind of benefit to the town. So, yeah, I would really encourage you to look at upping that number significantly. And I wonder, if the town could be a partner on this, if numbers don't work from a developer standpoint. But I really think this is kind of our last chance, because the thing across the street didn't work out at all what it was supposed to be. So this is kind of it.
All right, thank you, Cindy. Bob?
Yeah, my comments is, I see this as a natural evolution of a sort of lower density industrial use to a mixed-use development with with dense housing, which is exactly what the town needs to be doing at this level of our quest to have more housing within walking space. And so I'm really approval. I'm glad to see this being the development that's coming in there. I think the location next to RAFTA is about as good as you can get for working people going up and down the valley every day, and I support that. As far as the for sale commercial spaces, I don't think there is any of that in this town. I know that there's a lot of that, for instance, near the Eagle Airport, that has done very well, and there's probably a demand. So, yeah, those are my thoughts.
Thank you, Bob. Rob?
It's hard to get excited about storage units, right? We don't need more storage units, we need less crap.
Yeah,
That's all I'm saying. And we don't need more housing, we need fewer people, and that would solve the traffic problem as well.
You can't control that.
I do think housing near the public transport is the way to go. I feel confused because people are going to walk the quickest way possible. And if the shortest way possible is through a RAFTA parking lot, people are going to walk through a RAFTA parking lot. So do you make it safer for them and encourage more people to walk through it, or do you not? I don't know the answer, but I think that people just tend to walk the shortest way they can. My bigger issue on the project is that I have a hard time building housing without building jobs. It's supposed to be mixed use, and storage units not really providing jobs. We're just putting more people in the valley that are going to go up to Aspen to work. And, the master plan's pretty clear that mixed use. I don't care if it's in the same building or in the same development, but I would love to see more opportunities for people to work there if we're going to put more people there than to put them all on the road up to Aspen. That's all I got.
Thank you, Rob. I have some comments myself. Some of these comments will be aimed at the town, and some of them will be aimed at the applicant. First off, I'm going to make my usual comment that I make on all residential projects, and I would hope that we could exceed the code required number of type A units, the adaptable handicapped units. There's a large handicap community here, and I think it would be a good thing to serve it, but that's just a request. It's not a big one, but has monetary impacts to do that, and it has rental impacts to do that, but I still think it's the right thing to do. The next one is I wanted to suggest an idea to float for Fiu Lane. And I'd like Curtis to weigh in on this at some point, not necessarily now. Because I think one thing that could work is to come up with a solution that would actually work as a traffic calming measure, which would be to use it kind of like as a designated bike boulevard, and where the bike boulevard itself becomes a traffic calming measure, like in Germany they call them Kinderstrasses, and bike feets in the Netherlands. But they do use them quite effectively in neighborhoods to keep traffic speeds down. If the traffic speeds are down, it's less likely to be used as a sneak, and more easily to be used as two-way traffic if people are going slow. So some form of traffic calming measure to keep people going slow, so you could still do two-way. That's just one idea, or maybe with the one-way solution is a better one, but I think there's ways to think outside of the box with that. So you can, especially so you can keep the trees, which I think all the neighbors would really love to do, and they're pretty mature trees, so they look nice, and that would be a way to do it without spending a ton of extra money and doing something terrible like cut all the trees down. Another suggestion would be for the outdoor storage component, which they're asking for mitigation for. And I think one way to get a tit-for-tat kind of mitigation would be to offer something like that can happen in the interstitial space, like outdoor bike storage, which could possibly be covered, or they might have to rejigger the snow storage and where the gates go between the two sections, but it's something that could happen in the interstitial space between the buildings. And that's something that goes into outdoor storage a lot anyway, like people usually put bikes on their balconies. So it's something that, it's not real storage, but it's something, it's something that people have and use, and the project could possibly mitigate that way.
Are we overlooking the point that the place that's building storage units doesn't have storage for the rentals? I mean,
I know, but it's a whole separate thing,
yeah, but it's just right over there. I mean,
Yeah, but it's got a property line between them.
right.
Yeah. That's why I asked about the property line, because of that one thing. But I think there'd be a way to think again outside of the box slightly on that sort of thing to provide the storage component and be creative with that. It's something to work on, I think, for the next iteration of this. I think, this is aimed at the town. We're losing more industrial zone land. And we keep losing industrial zone land. And I've talked about when this happened up in Aspen with the SEI district. And I fear that would happen to us too. So we have to keep a mindful eye on where our industrial functions go. And that's a bigger discussion for the town, because this project is within its rights to ask for this. And it's a beneficial thing for the town to do this. But it's also, we can't just sort of let that zone dissipate, because there are functions in there we all use. My next comment is the exterior expression of the building. It's really, really ugly. I mean, it's a basic building. It looks like an industrial building. And I think if I had done something like that in architecture school when I was a student in the 80s, I would have gotten in all kinds of trouble for that. That happens a lot now because building costs are expensive and people try and keep things reasonable, but I think that it could use a little bit more attention with materials, colors. You don't have to change the exterior of the building, but something could be done with a little more sprezzatura. Just simple things can do a lot. As far as the height is concerned, I've spoken about it, but I am okay with that because of especially with coordination with the town code. And also, I think this is another thing for the town to think about is the town has, a really developed bicycle infrastructure between downtown and Willits. And it doesn't have much between, say, the high school and the underpass. And I think that's something, with a project like this, we should, as a town, think about. I'm not saying that this project should provide to it. That would be cool if they did, but I don't think it's their responsibility to do so, other than to be mindful of, alternate modes of transport and micro-mobility kind of things. But I think the town should start thinking about how this is utilized. I remember we were talking about the idea of putting a roundabout. I can't remember where the roundabout was going to go, but it was somewhere between Southside and we were talking about, if you're on a bike, how do you get around the roundabout? And the engineer said, well, you just ride in the roundabout. And I ride in the roundabout on Valley Road 2-3 times a week. And I tell you, it is the most frightening thing you could ever imagine. An F-350 cannot see you on a bicycle. They just can't. And it gets frightening. So we have to sort of think about this before some kid gets squished. So that's my comments. I don't think we need a motion or anything,
To continue the public hearing,
continue the public hearing. Okay, do we have a date?
February 3rd.
Yes, okay. We need a motion to continue this discussion in the public comment to February 3rd, 2026.
So moved.
We have a first? Second? Second. All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
And thank you to the public for coming. Okay, commissioner comments and staff updates.
All right. Well, back to the lighthearted things here. It's always a tricky transition. So the Basalt Public Arts Commission adopted a capital improvement plan last year. And you can see the 4 consigned art pieces are all installed now. There's a piece in front of Sotheby's, a piece in front of Z Group, a piece across from the art base near Tempranillo, and a butterfly piece over here in the River Park. So I encourage you to look at those. You can see more information about the artists and whatnot on basalt.net under BPAC. We have a whole map there. Sticking in the arts, the BPAC grants, I think I mentioned this at our last meeting, are open for nonprofits and artists to participate in or apply for, and that closes February 20th, also on basalt.net. Today we had a pre-bid meeting. We have a request for proposals out to for design build services to improve Cliffs Hillside Playground up on Homestead Drive. This is a priority project for Post. So that RFP is listed on our town website. Proposals are due February 27th. That is to remove and replace that existing playground and make landscaping improvements, among other things.
That playground used to be at Albany Park before it was there.
I'm sure somebody will want to maintain it somewhere.
It needs to be replaced. It's very old.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet. And if you're interested in just watching the progress of that project go on, it'll be on Let's Talk Basalt for regular updates.
And where is that located again?
It's on Homestead Drive. It's a small neighborhood, neighborhood park.
Will there be any more opportunity for public input throughout that design?
There will. We're anticipating that the design process will be in April and May, and we'll reach out to stakeholders.
For the playground?
It's just right next to my house.
Does your property touch that?
Yes. Touches on the lower side.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure they'll make stuff you can play on.
That's what I'm hoping for.
What else?
Oh, I want to make one quick comment. Do not use the playground structures that they used at Crown Mountain, those Danish play structures. Kids stand there and they go, what do I do with that?
Oh,
You know, because everything's kind of,
Oh, I love those.
they look cool.
My kid liked them.
They look cool. My kids couldn't figure out how to play on them.
Well, Bill.
Maybe they weren't creative enough.
I guess not. I guess not. They're not Danish.
Okay. Anything else?
Next P and Z meeting will be the February 3rd meeting. We will have a continuation of the 555 Basalt Avenue, and I believe we also have code amendment update on that agenda as well.
I can
So
talk about
72
that.
Sunset Drive.
And 72 Sunset Drive as well. They're working on some building code issues that need to get kind of ironed out before they come for public hearing.
You won't be
Did you,
here.
yeah, I'll be out of town for the February 3rd meeting.
Okay.
Are we a dark sky initiative community?
We haven't pursued it officially yet.
But we have lighting codes for nighttime lights.
We have a lighting code that is dark sky friendly,
Okay.
but we haven't, I don't know, the town hasn't gone the full.
Is the FedEx building within the town of Basalt? Because I drive by one more time at night and my wife starts complaining about how bright those lights are.
Which building?
FedEx.
FedEx.
It is, it's in the town. The other side of Sunset Drive, we had complaints about the lighting maybe 2 years ago or so, and we did some enforcement on that. We haven't previously done enforcement on FedEx.
I know there's security issues, I'm sure, with what they have going on, but It's pretty bright. Is there,
We can take a look at that.
thank you. I can tell my wife I did something tonight.
That's it?
That's it?
Any commissioner comments? Cindy?
Can I make my annual ongoing request for us to have a work study session with the Western Housing Regional Authority?
Sure.
I think it would be helpful to, just to help, just to put things in context and to learn a little bit more about what kind of units are really needed. Because we're just kind of going on what the developer says. Or we're just doing, 2 bedrooms because that's what people want. But I mean, what do they really want? This
Sure.
actually survey? And I just think it would be helpful to know what is going on in the valley as a whole.
Absolutely. At the town council meeting next week on Tuesday, we're having an update from Liz Axberg with the City of Aspen. The communities in the valley have been part of a regional housing needs assessment study so that we can all qualify to pursue Prop 123 funds. So there'll be some discussion in there about the housing needs assessment as well. And we always direct developers to look on our Bach webpage where our recent 24 housing needs assessment update is for people to look at. So there's reference for them. I know it can sound like it's coming from nowhere, but there's
That needs assessment is only for the town of Basalt, right?
yes.
I mean, I really think we need to look at things kind of with a value-wide mindset because
Sure. Yeah,
that's where
absolutely.
we're at.
Yeah, absolutely.
To speak to Bill's point about these apartments being attractive, there are raised apartments being built in Carbondale just to the south of the City Market Shopping Center, and they are extremely unattractive. With parking underneath and, 2 stories above it, extremely unattractive. And we do not want to replace that,
Yeah.
replicate that, excuse me.
I have done a shitload of podium housing, and
It's hard to make them nice.
yeah, it's hard to make them nice, but also the drive from the developer is to make them as cheap as humanly possible.
Because they have to pay for, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for maintaining your comments about the application during the application time on the agenda. Any other comments for me?
Nothing for me.
Sorry.
Let's a motion to adjourn. 1,
Second.
2, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.